Hi, Paola. Hi, Luke. Very excited to have you here on the stage with me. We deliberately changed the topic of the panel. It said modern design and classic aesthetics or something like that.
That was weird, yes.
And we thought we call it Everything is Designed. And this quote goes back to Bill Moggridge, the co-founder of IDEO, which is a global design and innovation consultancy. And he said once that it doesn't occur to most people that everything that surrounds us has been designed. So I want to talk today about the role of design with these wonderful experts here on stage. Thank you for being here. So, Paola, you got a medal awarded for actually recognizing how you expanded the influence of design in everyday life through your provocative exhibits. And you, Luke, as mentioned before, are helping to design products that 1.65 billion monthly active users has. So you guys had a lot of impact with design. And I looked up that you have actually one interesting thing in common that you may not be aware of, and your passion is the Boeing 747.
Oh, you too.
You didn't know that.
Oh,
Well, Paola, you mentioned how you would like to acquire Boeing 747 for the collection at the MoMA, and you, Luke, used to be an intern at Boeing in 2008.
No way.
Yep.
Oh, I'm
Yeah,
so jealous.
let's just quickly dive deep into your past. What made you go into the field of design?
Oh, for me, absolutely pure chance. Or maybe I grew up in Italy, so design is absolutely normal in Italy. You talk about it like football and design, that's it, and food. That's what Italians talk about, and politics, and sometimes other things. But and so it was absolutely normal. So normal that I never thought of going into design. You know, I wanted to be an economist. I wanted to be a journalist. I wanted to be an astronaut and a nuclear physicist. I mean, I went through the whole gamut, and then I went into economics, and I hated it so much that I went to architectural school because it was the farthest thing from economics. It was a complete mess. We were 15,000 students only in architecture, only in Milan, $200 a year, complete anarchy. So that's what I wanted, and here I am.
Not an uncommon path for designers, by the way.
Anarchy works.
Luke, how about you?
Unlike in Italy, I grew up in the United States, and design was not one of the common topics at the dinner table. And I came to find the field of design in an idiosyncratic way, in the way that most people in the States, I think, end up finding design. For me, the idiosyncrasy was that I had a babysitter as a child, and her kids happened to be in design school at the University of Cincinnati, DAP. And they were studying industrial design, and they were sharing with me their sketchbooks with drawings of sneakers, drawings of automobiles, and I just thought that that was so cool. And it was that really random chance that exposed me to this whole world of design.
Yeah.
And that's actually one thing that I would love to see change in the world. I think it would be incredible if we could help more people get exposed to this design industry and to the impact that they could make as designers at an earlier stage.
So there has been big shifts around design. We noticed that IDEO, we started off as a product design company, and then we applied creative problem solving to much bigger and more complex challenges in the world. Designing systems, organizations, schools, etc. And now we are back to talking about digital products. Isn't that funny? So this cycle closes again. What have been the big shifts that you too noticed throughout your years in this field? What are the tensions that design is uncovering?
Well, you just pointed at that. So the idea of object has changed. So once upon a time, when people thought of objects, they thought of chairs, they thought of cars, they thought sometimes of graphic design. And instead, if you think about it, the interface of a banking machine, of an automatic teller machine, is a piece of design. And so is the interface of the Metro card, and so is the controller that enables you to play whatever you're playing, if it's Pac-Man or if it's Grand Theft Auto. So it really is all designed. And people have started to understand that the digital world is a space that we inhabit and that we have to design by means of architecture, of object design, and of behavior design.
Super interesting. So we're going away from being pixel pushers to designing something much bigger and more meaningful. How do you observe that in your work? What has been the journey that Facebook has been on integrating design into their products?
I have seen big changes in the industry as more and more products become digital, because digital products are a little bit different from physical products. For example, digital products are quite fast to build relative to physical products. Digital products also enable us to log data and to really understand how people are using them in a way that's different from physical products. Digital products also really are never finished. The physical product you have to complete and ship, and then maybe a year later you can create a new version. And digital products you're able to keep refining almost in real time.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
One of the constants, however, in the face of that change is that I think what really drives designers is solving problems for people and empathy and the tools that we have at our disposal to do that, and the form that it ultimately takes is just a little bit different from what it was a few years ago.
Mm-hmm. Can I add something beautiful to this? It's true, so everything has changed, but everything remains the same in a way. Yesterday, when I got to Berlin, I knew that my room wouldn't be ready, so I had set up some appointments, and I went to see my good old friend Hella Jongerius, who happens to be the best designer in the world, quite simply. You know, she does furniture and objects, and she is Dutch but lives here in Berlin. And her assistant had taken out all of her portfolio. When she redesigned the business class for KLM, she redesigned all the cabin, and she had taken out the portfolio because she was working with the museum in the Netherlands. You should have seen the sketches. So Hella started working on the business class seats by looking at how her children rolled up in chairs. So there are all these sketches of like how you stay in a chair with like one foot up, and it was just so beautiful. You know, sometimes you forget that it all begins with us.
Yeah. So you're hinting at the creative process driving positive change, which is a huge responsibility as designers to take on. What do you think are the probably most difficult or biggest problems for designers to tackle right now?
Oh, you go ahead. That's a little one for you.
I think that there are a huge number of exciting opportunities ahead for the field of design. And I think one of them is about thinking more deeply about the full range of the human experience. I live in San Francisco. One of the apps that really just blew up last weekend is a game.
Yeah.
And it's a Pokemon app.
Of course.
And games are great. They play an important role in our life. It's important for people to have fun. But there also are sometimes people who set out to solve problems that are a little bit more trivial. I passed a billboard recently in San Francisco that had a picture of a dog on it, and the dog was reaching out to paw an iPhone, and there was like a bowl of water in the distance. And the tagline was something about like, never have to guess when your dog is thirsty again. You know, there's an app for that. So there are really important problems that we can solve as a design, tech, and as a creative community. One small example that I'll go into a little bit more detail on tomorrow is some work that we are doing at Facebook in the suicide prevention space. You probably think of Facebook as a place to share family photos, to see what your friends are up to, but sometimes people also post content that really might worry you. And if you see a post like that, you can go ahead and report that post. And we have partnered with a number of suicide prevention experts around the world to provide the most effective tips for you as a friend and the most effective tips for the person who you're concerned about. So the person you're concerned about might be able to get in touch with a suicide helpline, or you as a friend might know that you're going to help them more by saying something like, I care about you, rather than, I'm really concerned about you.
I think this is a great example about how to take responsibility for what you create and use it for good impact. Paola, we talked earlier about a little bit about the perspective that designers bring in solving those things. Do you have an example where you think design brought a new perspective onto a topic that you featured in one of your exhibitions?
I have many, but even that KLM example is one, you know, like the perspective of reminding airlines about human bodies, like, duh, is interesting. But I was thinking of the question that you asked, Luke, and it also relates to what you just asked me. There are gigantic issues going on right now in the United States and in the world. In the US, of course, I cannot help but thinking of what just happened in Minneapolis and in Baton Rouge with 2 more black men killed by the police and then 5 cops killed by a black man. So this amazing tension that seems impossible to resolve. And I'm thinking of an object of design, the hoodie. You know, the hoodie stands for so much of this misunderstanding, so much of this like real tension. So redesigning the hoodie as a symbol, you know, and that's something that I've been talking about with both an activist, Ray McKesson, and with a designer, Kirby Jean Raymond from Pierre Moss. So it is something that could be a spark for some positive change. And you might say, oh my God, you're telling me that you're going to tackle these problems with fashion. Not really. It's just about acupuncture. Sometimes a little gesture of design can go into the pressure point that enables a change that then becomes a chain reaction. Another example is the work about gender fluidity that a designer like Gabrielle Meyer, who's a transgender man, she used to be Anne and then Gabrielle Anne, and now he's Gabriel. He's made this beautiful, very simple demonstration. Look at how we're seated. I have to say, Luke is really good. He's not too wide in his man spread. But I have to say, Gabrielle Ann, no, you're okay. I mean, but what he did is he started out showing, he made this amazing chair that like expands for men and women. And it's so hilarious because something like this is a way to get under the skin even of the most reactionary people that really have a discomfort with the idea of gender fluidity. So designers bring things down to human scale, right? And if they're good, they're able to be non-threatening and at the same time extremely powerful.
Yeah.
So.
Interesting that you bring up the notion of scale. We're here probably with an audience of lots of people working in tech, and we've seen lots of tech companies grow really, really fast. There's a pattern I've been observing, which is once a company reaches a certain scale, they're asking almost themselves, what's beyond tech? Because technology is really a commodity, and at some point, tools can be rebuilt. But what comes after that? Why do tech companies exist? Do you have a point of view about that?
There are lots of interesting things happening in the technology space, many of which are on display here. Advancements in VR and AR, for example, artificial intelligence, many other things. But what really drives me and what drives all of us at Facebook is technology in service of bringing people together. I think it's really all about people, and the technology that is at your disposal at any given point in time might change. I would push back, though, a little bit on the notion that technology is a commodity. I do think that we're living in a world where there are important technological breakthroughs that unlock new ways of solving human problems.
Yeah, and I like to think of the fact that designers are the ones that transform revolutions into real life, so that innovation, that word, would not happen without design, because people like you are the ones that take the engineer's work and make it into something that helps save a young man's life, because of the suicide watch. And so it really is about that. I like to say that designers are the enzyme for innovation. Mm-hmm.
Nice. So the role of design is growing, would you say? Would you also agree that maybe designers will be the next and the better CEOs?
Well, you know more about CEOs than I do.
First, I want to share one of my favorite moments of Tech Open Air thus far. It was this morning, and Daniel Barenboim was sitting right where Paola is, and he explained to the audience. I was sitting in the audience. Actually, I was standing in the audience at the back. I know the room is kind of dark and kind of warm. I apologize for that. He explained to the audience the origin of the word technology and said that the root word goes back to Greek, technos, which means art. And I think that's interesting while we are here at Tech Open Air, designers, engineers, technologists, artists, musicians. And I think that remind me of your first question. I'm sorry, I'm
if
losing
they
my
make better
train of thought.
CEOs. Would designers make better CEOs?
Thank you.
Together.
I think that design and tech and art are really kind of different takes on similar things. And the types of skills that designers bring to the table, skills like empathy, like thinking about people, a certain comfort with ambiguity as we go about the process of trying to make something. Those are skills that are super valuable to companies. They're very valuable as companies' strategies shift and as companies try to execute different initiatives. I think it's super exciting that there are more designers stepping into leadership roles, designer founders, designer CEOs. I would say, though, that your role, if you become a founder or a CEO, does shift somewhat. Design is a component of that role, but it's not the entirety.
Paola, how do you grow and inspire more creative leadership?
I don't know. I guess I am a creative leader just because of what I do, but nobody ever called me so. But I think you inspire them by doing what you do to the best of your abilities and with conviction. But it's the same way in which you get inspired by reading biographies. I love obituaries, especially the ones at the end of The Economist, because there are so many different ways to live life. To me, that's inspiring. Like if you spend your whole life weaving baskets, I am fine with that and extremely inspired. So I think that a life well lived is the inspiration.
Yeah, I almost noticed that by being a designer, you can't prevent yourself from learning these traits about empathy, responsibility, driving creative process, and helping people to enable better decisions throughout. It's less about what you design, but helping others to continue the design of
designers are nice
things.
people. Yeah.
We have probably designers in the audience. Raise your hand, please. Yeah, a couple. Hi there. And then you probably also have people in the audience who are trying to attract and hire designers. Please raise your hand. There's a little matchmaking game here.
Not enough.
Exactly. But I would love to hear a little bit from you guys, and maybe Luke, you can start. How do you create an environment and the conditions for designers to thrive and be motivated about changing the world?
It's a great question, and I think that today is a great time to be a designer. There is huge demand for designers and for design thinking and design skills across a really wide range of industries. I think it's also a good time for us to consider how we can bring more people into the field of design. There's a program in the Bay Area that I'm really excited about right now called Interact Project, which is founded by a gentleman named Maurice. And he does outreach to kids in middle school who are in underprivileged environments, and tries to just expose them to the field of design. He's uniquely positioned to do this because he used to be a professional basketball player. So, and a lot of kids aspire to become athletes or business people or doctors. And he tries to help them realize that, like, those apps that you use on your phone every day, those are designed. You could make a career out of designing those. those sneakers that you really like to play basketball in, those are designed. You can make a career out of designing those. I think for companies to create great environments for design, there are a few important things. One is that I think designers thrive when they have autonomy, when they're given a question or a broad kind of problem to solve, and they have some space to chart a course towards solving that. I think designers don't thrive very much when they're prescribed to do something, when they're treated just as what in the film industry they refer to as a wrist. Somebody else is doing all the thinking and you're just the hands to make it work. I think that's probably like the number one thing that companies can do to create environments for designers to thrive.
And what Luke touched upon is so important. There's a desperate lack of diversity in the design field still, especially in the United States, where you have to pay for design school in most cases. And it's not a problem of not having enough money. It's a problem of trying to improve your state in society, and therefore not thinking of design as a profession that will heighten your possibilities. So I don't even think, of course, if you're a basketball player, it works really well. But it's amazing the moment you go in front of an audience of kids that are not, for instance, from Manhattan, they immediately get it. The moment you explain it's a profession, this is what happens, they just don't know that it exists.
Yeah. Before opening up for questions to the audience, because this should be really also a dialogue, I would love to hear a little bit from you about what you think will be the next frontiers of design. What do you think we'll work on next?
I think that the frontiers ahead for design are broad. I'll loop back for a second. I mentioned earlier the Pokemon game, which is super fun, and that there are also a whole category of problems that are really important problems to be solved. And I think that sometimes when people tackle a serious problem, they tend to kind of filter out a whole bunch of fun things. One of my favorite photography projects ever is a project where the photographer, whose name I can't remember off the top of my head, I can look it up later, took photos of people at work.
I thought you were about to say my favorite, I thought you were about to describe my favorite project. No, you go ahead. I was like stunned for a moment. You go ahead.
You can go next. We can share all our favorite photographers. So this person took photos of people at work, and their expressions are just so bland. And then from the same perspective, from kind of the view of the TV, took photos of people playing games.
I saw that.
And their expressions are wild. They're so engaged. And so I think that when people are really having fun with something, there is a lot of power there, and that is a pathway for innovation. There are video games, for example, that have inspired the way that medical students are taught and practice how to perform surgeries. I think that that's a really important innovation pathway, and is a connection that doesn't always naturally get made.
So how are we going to work? How do we make work more efficient or effective or enjoyable? Are things you're hinting at? What are themes or patterns you think we'll be looking at in the future to push, but also maybe even within the boundaries of some ethical tensions, if you think about automated driving and us maybe designing who are the entities who enable choices?
It's huge, but I agree with Luke about the video games, and we started collecting them at MoMA, and I got a lot of flack for that, but it's completely true. When you're talking about ethics, design is always about ethics, and you can take it or you can leave it, and there are designers that do the wrong thing and designers that do the right thing. So it's human nature, right? But if you're talking about the next frontiers in ethics, one of the biggest is synthetic biology and designers. So many designers are working with synthetic biologists. Do you all know what synthetic biology is? Yeah, good. So there's a lot of work that they do together. It was started mostly in London. It was the Royal College of Art together with Imperial College and many others. And there's now biodesign challenges. To me, that's really a huge area, and it's fraught with ethics. You know, when I proposed for acquisition at MoMA the Autodesk virus, the one that was built by software, I had to bring in a panel of bioethicists to discuss it, so it's a huge thing. So definitely, whenever design and science come together, the future is ready to go, but also there's a lot of issues to discuss, and designers can really help with that.
Yeah. I mean, you can't predict the future, you can just design it. Buckminster Fuller said it.
Exactly. And designers can help people deal with change, so it's
totally
an important role.
Yeah. Would love to take some questions from the audience. Is there a mic to, maybe you can say your name and where you
sure.
work
We'll
at?
start right here.
Hi, Marcello. Nice to meet you, Paola. Nice
Ciao.
to meet you. So I have a very urgent question because you're talking about more design, more. And my information right now is that, for instance, fashion is the most polluting industry in the world. We have a lot of design. We have this urge to buy always something new. And I mean, this is maybe more your field because you're in the, in the world of material design, of production, rather than immaterial design. But how can we, what is the direction? How can we tackle this problem? Isn't it maybe less is more, maybe?
Well, more design doesn't mean more stuff. In some cases, the concept of sustainability has many different facets. One of the ways to be sustainable is to build something that lasts much longer. And, fast fashion is a big issue, but then there's slow fashion, slow food. I mean, so that's a way to go. But when we say more design, we think of more power to design and more involvement on design in decision-making, in government, in policy-making, in corporations. We don't mean more stuff, right?
One thing that I'd add is that I think typically there exists interesting small counter movements. I think one counter movement here that's interesting to reference is the group of people who keep track of all of the things that they own and make sure that they only own 100 things. And this community debates, does a pair of socks count as 2 objects or 1 object? Does your iPhone cable count as 2 or 1? Things like that. But that is a real community in the world. There probably are some people here who practice this, and if not, you know that. And one special opportunity that designers have is to recognize a behavior that exists in the world, something that people are already doing today. And designers can think about how they could make that a movement, how they could build a product around that, how they could build a service around that, how they could set that up to scale and become more of a thing. So whenever we find like a signal that exists in the world, it's something that is really exciting because that's a sign that we can build a product experience around this, and it's going to be something that is going to resonate with people and is going to be valuable.
There was another question in the front.
Hello, my name is Brigitte. I would like to ask you, what is the difference, what do you think is the difference between design and art? And when does design become art? Is it the more commercial side?
Well, there's like 15 questions into one here, but I'm going to try to tell you what I think personally. I think that design and art are 2 very different things. I don't think that art is higher than design. I don't think that designers, when they die and go to heaven, aspire to become artists. I believe they just aspire to be really great designers. I believe that there are many artists that are jealous of designers because designers deal with the real world and don't have to sell through a gallery that kind of dictates the way they have to behave. So all in all, I'm giving you all these definitions and all these opinions, but the truth is you cannot tell if an object is art or design until the author tells you what she meant. And the difference is a difference of intention and of position towards the world. An artist can choose whether to speak to other human beings or not, and instead a designer has to do it by definition. The moment you decide to be a designer, you work for people. And when you don't do a good job, people can fire you. So.
I think that's great.
One last question, maybe there in the front or in the back. Who's faster with the mic?
At the back?
Yeah, the back deserves it.
Who was it? Let's see it again.
Hi, Paola. Great to have you here. My question is that working with MoMA, you literally have a bird's eye view of the evolution of design, contextually, historically, geographically. Can you pick one story of an object or an instance that when you experienced it, you were like, wow, I'm so glad that I am a curator at MoMA. Just one story, because I really enjoyed listening to your stories.
I have it for you. I have a few, but I'm going to pick the one that I want to talk the most about. We acquired, or better, anointed the @sign in the MoMA collection. And I say anointed because you cannot acquire the @sign. It belongs to everyone. And there are so many reasons why. The @sign represents a connection between the past and the present, which is the secret to modern design, because the first time it was found was in the Middle Ages, and the monks that were copying manuscripts used it already as a way to fuse words. It was ad, the Latin preposition that connected people and places, and it's been used the same way by Ray Tomlinson in 1971 when he was tasked to prepare the internet. I can go on forever, so let me be fast. Past and present, a connection to everyone, share economy brought into the museum because it's public domain. The idea that it is about acquiring something virtually. It brings all sorts of new behaviors into the museum, and in fact, it was a big issue. And also, it is digital and physical at the same time. So that's one of my favorite examples.
Beautiful. I'm afraid we're running out of time. This was such a great pleasure and privilege to be here with you.
I'm only sorry we didn't ask you questions because you have so much to talk about.
I would like to end with a quote from John Mader, who said, "Design will transform our economy the way science and technology did in the last century." Thank you so much. Have a great night. Super nice. Thank you. Lovely.